Well, the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein has reserved judgment in the case against athlete Oscar Pistorius. A date is yet to be set for the judgment. The Paralympian was released from prison last month after serving 1 year of his 5-year term for killing his girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp. Pistorius shot her through a locked bathroom door but insists he thought she was an intruder. He could be sent back to jail if appeal judges overturn the original verdict. Pistorius is currently under house arrest and is not attending the hearing at the Supreme Court. State Prosecutor Gerrie Nel outlined the state's case for the verdict to be changed to murder from culpable homicide or manslaughter. The prosecution said that Judge Thokozile Masipa incorrectly applied the law of murder and argues that Oscar Pistorius should have foreseen the result of his actions, namely that shooting 4 times through a closed bathroom door would result in a person's death. Well, for the latest, we're joined by our reporter Griselda Lewis. She's at the Supreme Court in Bloemfontein. Griselda, good afternoon to you. So judgment has been reserved, but let's start with the state. Gerrie Nel ending his opening submission this morning amid a tough time from the judges. What were the points of arguments?
Well, certainly, Natasha, we saw from when the proceedings started earlier this morning that the state was accusing Judge Thokozile Masipa of not taking into account crucial circumstantial evidence, saying that Judge Thokozile erred in her interpretation of the law and essentially, as you rightfully point out, they want Oscar Pistorius to face a charge of murder. They're saying that Oscar Pistorius should not have been found guilty of culpable homicide, saying that Oscar Pistorius knew what he was doing when he fired those 4 shots through the bathroom door, and despite the fact that it turned out that it happened to be Reeva Steenkamp who was behind that door, Oscar Pistorius had intended to shoot whoever was behind that door. Certainly we also saw Barry Rue, the defense, also coming under a great scrutiny from the panel of judges, where we saw Barry Rue towards the end of his arguments really stressing that the panel of judges needs to take into account Oscar Pistorius's state of mind at the time when he shot through that toilet door. But just to give us a bit more about what transpired inside and what is likely, we'll chat now to Brenda Waddle, who is the legal expert who's been helping us unpack this here on SABC News. Brenda, thank you very much for your time once again. Much towards the end, we see Barry Rue focusing quite much on Oscar Pistorius' state of mind, pleading with this panel of judges to take that into account holistically.
Well, absolutely correct, because what Barry Rue tried to do, and I think he was up against, he had a very, very difficult time there, especially with those questions coming from the court, firstly about the size of the toilet cubicle, and he was essentially trying to advance that because Oscar Pistorius was under the impression that Reeva Steenkamp was in the bedroom, he somehow had a right to kill whoever was in the toilet. And then the judges said, look, it's not about the identity here. So it was a very, very tough time for him. If I could actually even predict, I'm almost certain that the court is going to allow those reserved questions of law, because, they went and they asked especially about whether or not Judge Masipa actually applied the principles of dolus eventualis correctly.
We saw the state towards the very beginning as well question also, rather point out that Judge Thokozile Masipa, according to them, had erred in her interpretation, I beg your pardon, had essentially omitted a lot of the crucial circumstantial evidence. How did we see the judges receive that?
Well, if you listened to Gerrie Nel, one could almost see that he was bruised by that decision. And if you look at the judgment, I read it again last night, and by and large, Judge Masipa agreed with the defense's arguments, and she placed very, very little emphasis on what the state and the witnesses of the state had to say, even rubbishing, if I might use such a strong word, most of the claims made by the state witnesses. They must have been confused, they were drowsy, they got up from their sleep, etc., etc.
what are we likely to see here? We don't have much time, but what are we likely to see? When could we expect some kind of a ruling in this matter?
Well, I've heard that 2 to 3 weeks, but I suspect it might be sooner. One could gauge from the questions that the judges were posing that somehow they are convinced that there was a miscarriage of justice in this matter.
Thank you very much for your time there. As always, Brenda Waddle, who is the legal expert who we've been speaking to here on SABC News. But as the court has adjourned, outside the ANC Women's League has been protesting, basically calling for justice for Reeva Steenkamp. When we saw Reeva Steenkamp's mother, June, leave here just a few minutes ago, she really didn't want to speak to the media, but certainly it must be another day of reopening those bruises against certainly Natasha, on a day when certainly she has to wait much longer before some kind of a decision is made in this matter. Exactly how long that will take, not much clarity on that at this stage.
All right, Griselda, thank you very much. That's our reporter Griselda Lewis, live from the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein, where that appeals case in the Oscar Pistorius case has been reserved. As Griselda was saying, not much clarity yet on when that verdict by the judges will be delivered.